In today's MTG news, a new Mulligan rule breaks GRENZO, and Modern gets its own set? What is up? So, is this going to be a news channel now? No, don't worry, it's still mostly Magic the Gathering Arena content, but I wanted to try something different, and I know I'm a little bit slow on the ball, everyone has covered these news already, I know, but maybe you wanted my take on the stuff, and I really want to cover whenever there's like big news and spoilers and stuff which affects Magic. I want to cover it on this channel. So the upcoming set is called Modern Horizons. It's 249 new cards exclusively for Modern, set to release on June the 14th. It's not really exclusive for Modern, I don't think at least. It's going to be for Modern and Legacy and Commander and Vintage and all those old formats. But it's not going to be available in Arena. This card that you see right now, the Serra the Benevolent, it won't be available unless they announce something, which they haven't. So, Serra the Benevolent is the first card. It's a legendary planeswalker. Serra, we've seen Serra before. It's always been a vigilant angel of some sort. It's been the Serra theme here. The +2 ability, or the +2 loyalty thing, is creatures you control with flying get +1/+1 until end of turn. That's not good. I don't need to convince you that's not very good. The second ability, -3. Create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. Yeah, so you get to create your own Serra angel. It's very good as vigilance also. I like that. And then you get to the strongest ability, -6. You get an emblem with if you control a creature. If you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So this is where I think it's getting interesting. It's very easy with Serra the Benevolent to just go +2, get it up to 6 loyalty, and then -6, and just, if you have a very sticky creature, I don't know, like a Dant of Vanguard or something that's indestructible, or something that's hexproof, you can never lose. Well, at least not with damage, you can get decked and stuff like that, but you can't lose in the normal way, so that's very, very strong. So will this break Modern or Legacy? No, I don't think so. The problem with this Planeswalker is that it's 4 mana, and if you're going for the strong route, which is the -6 ability there, you don't get anything when you play this out. So if you're under siege from creatures, you can't go with the +2, you have to go with the Angel, which is arguably strong. But then it takes 2 turns before you can create another Angel and get some more value out of the Serra, and it's kind of vulnerable at 1 HP, or 1 loyalty, or whatever it's called. There's so strong Planeswalkers in Legacy and in Modern, so I think that even though this would probably break Standard, I'm not convinced that this will break Modern and Legacy. I think it's more of a Timmy Trap. I think it's a fun card, and I'm very glad they printed it. But no, I don't think it's gonna change much in those formats. There are already so strong tools in those formats. Yep. The Cabal Therapist is the next card. It's 1 black mana. It's a 1/1 menace. That's decent. At the beginning of a pre-combat main phase, you may sacrifice a creature. When you do, choose a non-land card name. Then target player reveals their hand and discards all card with that name. So initially I thought it was super duper amazing, because I thought you could play something out on your turn 2 and sacrifice it to the Therapist. Problem is you can't do that, as it says, or unless it's instant, of course, at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. So this will trigger at your pre-combat main phase. And unless you answer the trigger by something, if you have an instant or flash creature, you can't sacrifice it. So it's a bit awkward. Usually when you want these kinds of effects, we've seen them at Cabal Therapy. Of course, this is a callback to Cabal Therapy. We have the Cabal Therapy art here. It's called the Cabal Therapist. So everything's just callback. It's probably going to be that all over Modern Horizons, I think. Just callback to older cards and nostalgia and stuff like that. So, anyways, the Cabal Therapist, the problem here, since at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, even if you play out the creature, you can't use it, and you want these effects turn 1, Thoughtseizes, immediately get rid of a threat. You remember, these formats that this is targeted for, like Modern Legacy, they're so insanely fast. So insanely fast that I think this is also kind of a Timmy Trap. It's meant to be like, wow, you get an unlimited amount of Cabal Therapies, and it's very good with something like Bitter Blossom, because you can just, every turn take a card. It's like locking down the game that way, but the problem is it's very slow. Very, very slow. Let's think about it. Turn 1, you play Cabal Therapist. Turn 2, you play Bitter Blossom. Turn 3, you get to rid your opponent of his first card. I mean, in those formats, they might not even have cards left in their hand. Like, those formats are so fast that, I mean, I guess some decks is going to be amazing, which is why I think this is more of a sideboard deck, weirdly enough, than a main board stay, I think. In some decks, it will be very, very good. Something like a very black, hateful deck could work. I guess I think about, like, in Legacy, maybe running this alongside the Hymn of Torak and I don't know, some very good black card. Maybe run Thoughtseize first, maybe run this on turn 2, a Bitter Blossom and stuff like that. Could be quite a fun deck, but I don't think this will change too much in those formats either. So over to the next news here. Now some arena news, kind of. Well, it's news that probably is going to affect the arena at some point. They're trying out a new mulligan rule, which is going to make it so that whenever you mulligan, you draw the same amount of cards. You draw 7 cards, and then you put X cards back, where X is the number of times you mulligan. So let's say you do your first mulligan, then you draw 7 cards, and then you put 1 back on the bottom of your library. And I think that's interesting that they chose to go with bottom of your library and not shuffle in. I think it's because it's very annoying in Paper Magic to have to shuffle every time you do this, so that it doesn't take too much time. That's why they did this. But it also has a couple of side effects that I thought about. One of them is GRENZO, Dungeon Warden. When it enters the battlefield, that interacts with X+1 counter. Doesn't matter. 2 colorless. Put the bottom card of your library into your graveyard. If it's a creature card with power less than or equal to GRENZO's power, put it onto the battlefield. Now, admittedly, this is very gimmicky. I don't necessarily think that it's going to break GRENZO, that GRENZO is going to be a thing now, but I thought it's kind of interesting how a simple rule change like this makes me at least think about, okay, how can I break this? You know, how can I break this new rule? Because what you can do is you can always mulligan and, you know, just to put something on the bottom of your deck. And now you know it's on the bottom of your deck, so now your GRENZOs become amazing all of a sudden. But it's not super amazing with GRENZO, to be honest, because you can just play, there's the old hideaway lands, I don't know if you remember, I think they were from Lorwyn or something back in the old days, and which could do the same. Just play 1 land and you can put something on the bottom of your library. So it's not that amazing. The GRENZO, you could already do this stuff, and from what I know, GRENZO hasn't broken anything yet, so it should be fine, I think. But how will this affect arena? Well, I think that it won't affect standard too much, as I've watched a couple of pros talk about this, and the consensus seems to be that for most formats this should be fine. The most risky format is Modern. In Legacy, the reason why is it worst for Modern? Well, the reason is that Modern is a very fast format, almost as fast as Legacy, sometimes even as fast as Legacy, but the problem is maybe even faster, I should say. I think Modern is faster than Legacy, and the reason is that in Modern, it's almost the same as Legacy, but they don't have all the hate cards. They don't have the Force of Wills, they don't have the, you know, Land Destruction, the Hymn of Torak, all these strong cards which just keeps everything in check. That's what you need in a format. That's why I think Modern is so easily broken, has been broken again and again and again, just because they don't have these strong hate effects. And I don't know why they haven't printed like Force of Will and stuff in Modern, because I think that format really needs those cards, but they haven't. So in those formats you can not tutor, but you can kind of mulligan again and again to just get a specific card, and it might break those decks, because some hands in Modern are just so much more effective when you have that card. Some decks just revolve around having that particular card, and if you have that card and enough mana to play it, you can just win the game. So in Modern it's going to be very risky, and that's why it's very good that they're trying it out first, the London Mulligan that it's called, in that format. Will it affect Legacy? As I saw a video with LSV and Matt Nass, and they discussed this. I was also a bit concerned about Legacy and how will this affect it, but I think they were right with their conclusion that they came to, that it probably won't affect Legacy that much because all the hate cards, it's much more of a contained format. We have the big, or I should say, the big controlling elements which just keeps the format in check, and has for so many years, and that's why I love Legacy very much, because it's a very good, in my opinion, very good and balanced format. And the only time that I could remember where it was, you know, horribly broken and not fun at all was the what's called Flash Hulk era. Except for that, I think Legacy has always been one of the best formats ever. Anywho, how will this affect Standard? Now I've babbled enough about Modern and Legacy. You don't maybe even care about those formats, just play Arena. So how will this affect Standard? Well, will this make Mono Red super strong? No, it won't. I mean, Mono Red is probably... I know that a lot of people have argued that... I've seen on the forums, at least, when I've looked around, that, oh, it's going to be super strong for Mono Red. Imagine Mono Red having the perfect hand. Not super concerned about that, honestly. It's more about the decks which are searching for something, but this is a very strong way of searching for an exact threat. So if you search for instance, a Wilderness Reclamation, that might be, you know, problematic. Fortunately for us, the Nexus of Fate is banned in Best of 1, so it's not, at least in my opinion, there's not too much Wilderness Reclamation, but I don't know. That might be a problem. That's the only problem I can see is tutor for one card, and the only one card I can think of is Wilderness Reclamation that you would ever consider tutoring for in that way by mulliganing, because it is quite risky for most decks in Standard to go down too low for a card. That's the only card which could, you know, make it a good deal to do, I think. Yeah, that wraps up the news. What do you think? Leave your opinions in the comments down below.